Over the course of the preseason, I was asked multiple times in like various podcasts and radio hits and stuff, and like my prediction kind of crept up from the beginning to the end. So by the end of it, I'm like 62 wins, like it's happening. I think both the Raptors and Celtics are going to win 60. I think that's very much in play. I think the bottom of the East is garbage enough that that's just going to bleed a bunch of wins into those totals. And yeah, they might beat up on each other in the Sixers a little bit, but I just think the Celtics and Raptors, their rosters are the two deepest, I think, in the NBA probably, and they are two of the most sort of modern fitting NBA teams right now. They have multiple ways they can play in ways other teams can't really conform to, and like Kawhi Leonard is amazing, and if he plays, last night he looked pretty good for the Raptors. His shooting was still a little bit off, but other than that, I mean, he looked like Kawhi Leonard, and it was awesome. And it was extremely exciting to be in the building to watch him do some of that stuff. And also, if Kyle Lowry's sort of decline that everyone seems to be predicting is still a year or two away, and he's going to play like he did last night, I mean, it's really, really exciting. I think the Raptors and Celtics are, I agree, I think they're a tier of their own. And I honestly think like Milwaukee might even be better than the Sixers like now. The Sixers I have such a hard time with because of their finish to the season, and like I'm always wary of teams that go on crazy runs at the end of the year, especially runs that are powered by Marco Bellinelli and Ersan Ilyasova, who are no longer with them anymore, and also powered by like really easy schedules, because people kind of forget that Sixers schedule to end the season was cream puff. So
oh my god, yeah. So easy.
Yeah, so I think I'm with you. I think there's a pretty clear division between Boston and Toronto, and how those two shake out, I still don't know. I picked the Celtics to make the finals. I think it pains me because, but I mean, they're a really good team, and like I think Kawhi is the best player in that series, and maybe that's enough to swing it. I think Kyle at like peak Kyle can be like the third or fourth best player in that series potentially, but I just the thing that really is the difference for me is not really so much the stars, it's the guys that the Raptors are kind of relying on to take a leap this season. Like those same guys on the Celtics roster are already what you want them to be. Like Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, that's what the Raptors are hoping their young guys can become, and maybe they will. Pascal Siakam looked awesome last night. Fred VanVleet suddenly looks like prime TJ Ford with his speed all of a sudden, and so maybe they can take some leap that evens up the scales a little bit in the sort of middle parts of the rosters. But I'm just going to go with what is already established with the Celtics first, and that is that they have very good players who are already what the Raptors are hoping their guys are going to be.
Is there any concern about him fitting in with these guys as you try to kind of adjust on the fly in the post-DeRozan era?
So it's interesting because on offense, I don't really think it's going to take very long for things to kind of coalesce. And we saw it last night. There were just stretches of that game against the Cavs. And yes, it's the Cavs, but there were stretches of that game where, their defense would lead to offense, and they would have these possessions where it's all read and react. And that's what the Raptors offense is, right? And Nick Nurse was the architect of the offense that was really good last season and was still good in the playoffs. It was the defense that fell apart. And I do think the offense is just going to kind of carry over. And the things that Kawhi Leonard does well are kind of the same things DeRozan did well. He just does them better, right? Like he's still, like Kawhi will not, he's not afraid of a mid-range shot. He likes those shots. He likes to ISO. And he is a pretty good driving kick guy as well. He made a couple of really nice bullet passes last night when teams were sending doubles, when the Cavs were sending doubles at him that were just like straight out of the DeRozan playbook. So I think just like the style of player that Kawhi is going to fit into the offense nicely, and everyone else is pretty much, so it's such a fine-tuned offensive machine, and the the units that have played together so many minutes, like there's just a lot of familiarity there between a lot of these guys. So I'm not even worried about the offense at all. The defense, I think, will take some time, and it's interesting because, I think a lot of people sort of assume defense comes first, but this is a team that has been overcompensating for their best player, or not their best player, their second best player, who is a absolute defensive liability for years. And I think it's going to be a bit of an adjustment to, for all these guys to learn how to play with Kawhi and sort of where he's going to uplift them and where they can sort of cheat in here and there and where they can kind of find edges just because he's on the court and he's going to mop up a lot of mistakes. Also, having Danny Green out there is very nice. Like, there's just a lot more defensive chops. I mean, last night during the game, there was a moment where the Raptors had CJ Miles and Serge Ibaka on the floor together, and I was like, this is maybe the worst defensive lineup they can put together because everyone else on the team is at worst a average defender, and most of them are much better than that. So it's not like the talent's not there for the defense to be good. I just think it's learning each other. It's sort of, I think Nurse as well, I think his defense this season is going to be a lot more aggressive. The Raptors were a very sort of conservative drop-back scheme last season. Didn't really go for all that many steals or turnovers or anything like that. They were just kind of, all right, we're going to force teams into bad shots and we're going to rebound those bad shots and we're going to go down and play offense. This time around, I think they're going to be much more proactive in trying to turn the ball over. And, you saw last night against the Cavs that led to a lot of fouling, and that was a weird game. There was like 54 fouls combined in that game. It was not an interesting game to watch from that perspective, but I do think the sort of the instincts and the comfortability with playing that kind of defense will come around, and eventually it'll take some, but it's going to take some time because these guys don't know each other. They've not played a ton of minutes with Kawhi, obviously, already, and they're just kind of learning how to play with a guy like that. And also you have Serge Ibaka and Jonas Valanciunas just like never playing together anymore, and they're pretty much just the two centers at this point. And it's going to take some time for, I think, the bench unit to learn how to play with Serge off the bench, playing center there instead of him playing power forward and picking and popping and not really being near the basket at all. And it's going to take some time there. But again, the offense is not a concern for me. It's going to be really good. And the defense, I think, will eventually get there and be top 3 to 6 in the league. But early on in the year, there might be some.
Leonard has 13 of the Raptors' 17.